Welcome everyone to another episode of Sava Innovation Lab podcast. It's Matthew, and today we're receiving Sava Riaskoff, leadership coach for founders, TEDx speaker, co-founder of Growth Week, Idea Mentor, and Bocconi and Esade alumni. So thank you, Sava, for being here. Today we're going to talk about, some doubts, something Esade students, but students in general may face, and also questions about how to find our way in the professional, but also as human being, how to find our way in life. Hello, Sava. So how are you today?
Good, man. Good. Really happy. Thank you for the invite. I think I can only share my message when I get a stage. So thanks for giving that to me. And it's pretty cool to be back. I've never been, I studied 7 years ago in Esade, but I've never been in the media room. So that's very cool.
First time, so maybe for you, the ones who are listening this podcast, so Salah, if you can introduce yourself, please. So just to know more about you. So what do you do, and what is a bit about your background?
Yeah. So I'm Sava. I'm originally Dutch, although my father is a big mix, a bit of Spanish, even some roots here in Barcelona. Maybe there's more story there another time or another moment, but there's a bit the immigrant story and the entrepreneurial story there that inspired me a lot in my life. But I'm a coach, so I work with entrepreneurs mostly, and with people like students in the center, right? People like high potentials, high achievers, maybe 3-4 years into the career train, right? Whether they're in consulting or banking or other typical career paths people take after business school. And maybe realizing, hey, I'm on this train, but I never meant to ride it out on the end destination. Or why again am I here? Like, what is it actually that I really want to do? So I kind of help one group, the people that are looking for direction, looking for, hey, what is it actually that lights me up? And then once I found that, how do I make that real? Because one thing is to say, like, wow, I found something that is amazing starting point. It feels something I'd love to do. Maybe there's like, hey, I'm an entrepreneur at heart. A lot of clients of mine feel that. But the other thing is like, hey, do I have what it takes to actually live that vision, make it reality? So that's all more about the resilience part and finding your strengths, your motivators, and drivers to find your path in that. Huh? So that's a bit the two ways that I work.
And so I think for many students in Esade, and generally speaking in the top universities of Europe, it's also a question of how can we as students, how can we know that this is this path, this professional path, I really want to go on this, how can I be able to know that this is for me? I think that's a question that many students ask to themselves.
It's something that you feel, right? And feeling comes usually from experience. I mean, we can envision something, and when we do, it does get a representation in the body, right? You watch a movie or you play a vision in your head, whether it's a positive or negative one, it changes how you feel. But ultimately, you can only truly know when you experience. So that doesn't mean try out every career path on the planet, but maybe look at, hey, what then can I learn and subtract, distill from my experiences in the past and where I'm right now. What brought me to business school? What did I enjoy? What lights me up in general? Because often, if we look at it very specifically from, like little kids, we were taught, what do you want to become? A policeman, a lawyer, or, those were a handful of things we'd say as kids, an astronaut. But today, we have actually realities. We have roughly 500, 600,000 career paths to choose from, If you were born 200 years ago in a small village somewhere in France, there was maybe 3 career paths to take, and most likely you would be doing the same as that does. Now you're in an international business school. All the doors are open, not just within France or Spain where you are, but basically globally. So it's a huge amount of space of opportunity, right, that you need to pick from. And I think the difficulty is that if you do it specifically from the career perspective, I think you're missing the point. It's kind of like, what is it behind different paths that you might enjoy? What is it behind it on the essential level, right? I love coaching because I love personal development. I love finding out what it is that makes somebody come alive. And those kind of conversations I really enjoy. So it's very simplistic. I love this because I'm a storyteller. I've always loved to tell stories since a kid. So being on stage or being on a podcast, that's a gift for me, you know. There's still fear, of course. But what I mean to say, what if you can bring it to the essential level, might find some identifiers right now or some identities right now that can give you some North Star guidance. It's like, wow, if I love storytelling, I love working with people and helping them grow, and where might that take place? I could go as a coach, I could become a leader, or I can be a therapist, or I can go many different pathways in that. But I know that it comes from this deeper place. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand your point. So, but for example, what would you say to people who, like, students at Esare that believes like, okay, there's only one, like, we're in top business school, and we've all been like for years, like, I mean, okay, I'm here for now 3 years, and the main things I've heard is like, okay, you have to do a career in banking, you have to do a career in finance, you have to do a career in consulting if you want to be someone, like. So what would you say to these people who maybe are, I don't know, maybe they're not in the right path, maybe they're somehow not aligned to what they really are from their personality point of view? I
mean, what I would say is what I would have loved to have heard when I was in my master. I did my entrepreneurship master here, and or even back in the day that I was doing my bachelor's, is like, man, this is all just an experiment. You're in your early 20s. Probably even in our 30s and 40s, we're still trying to truly figure out what is it really that we enjoy to do, and where can we, bring our strengths into impact and feel a sense of meaning. Like, we're all after these feelings, right? Obviously also security and being able to take care of your family or pay for the lifestyle you want to have. But that's a continual experimentation. And I think the seriousness that comes in when we come into business school is like, it's immediately like, wow, this conformity, a very, very narrow few paths. So they're essentially pretty much the same, right? There's basically the big corporate path, and you can go either in big corporate companies normally, but it's like the banking and consulting. You always hear banking and consulting. You have the fair, and so it's like you're not really committing to a path right now. I think it's more like you're experimenting with paths. Even you here in business school, it's still an experiment. You might switch and do something completely different for your master, or you might stay. But it's just like, how does this feel? Like you have the sense of time, Like, I think, how can I explain this? I think that the large majority, that's the challenge of a business school. It's not a university where you're exposed to 50 different studies, and the people next to you in the cafeteria are studying architecture or design. You're all in the same boat. And business school studies, I think we take it, the large majority of us, when we don't know yet exactly what it is that we want to do. So what we say, you know what, I'm going to take a secure bet. And I'm going to go and get a good diploma from a good business school, learn how to make money, and maybe go to one of these big companies. And it's just like, so once I figure out what it is that I want to do, I have ways to get that done. I might have the financial position or the brand behind me, the validation that, hey, this is a young upcoming talent. You should listen to him or hire him or her, right? So it's kind of, we take the secure path. Maybe our parents told us to do so. And then there's a small group in business school that really is like, I'm an entrepreneur and I want to learn, I want to go. Where I feel that I'm going to, like, I love consulting or I love this specific path. But most of us are still essentially exploring. But then we all come in. And then it's day one of uni. And we all don't know exactly what it is we want to do. So most of us don't have a very clear direction. Yet everybody's asking, so what are you going to do next year? Where are you going to get your internship? And these worries and questions, they narrow our view, no? Yeah. And I know those situations where it's like, it's September, classes start, you're just in the rush of starting uni or your second or third year. And then a few weeks later, you wake up and your friend next to you says in the cafeteria, it's like, hey, so did you get your internship for this summer? I mean, what do you mean? It's 9 months ahead. No, but the career fair, man, like, it already happened. You missed the consulting fair. I mean, your chances are...
You're late.
You're late, no? Maybe good luck in January, but with the last spots they might have. So there's this, like, they come early, these fairs as well, to capture you early before you... answer some of those questions, what it actually is that you want to do, you know?
Yes. Do you think there's also this question like of that we're only in like, yeah, I'm 20 years old. Like, I mean, I still have my whole life. You know, I just getting started,
Yeah.
and they're already putting like all this pressure on me, trying
Yeah.
to make me learn so many things. But at the end, what is useful and okay, am I really like taking the time for myself? So this question of what is the time of my life, taking the time for me.
Yeah, man. I mean, this is the existential one, no? I mean, I think all of us feel that pressure, and especially in your studies, especially in a competitive school like ESADE or Bocconi or HEC or LSE. And it comes down a lot to this human pressure we feel, right? We are a group, right? We're a group-based species. We live in groups, but we also are individualistic. So it's like, how do you balance what the group might expect you to do and what you actually want, you know? And a really great, I mean, we're very young. I mean, literally, I could die in an accident tomorrow. I don't think we should bet on, like, we're all going to get B80, so let's solve this when we're 60. But what can be very powerful, if you're lacking a North Star, think about what might you regret, because it really quickly tells you about what you actually really want to do or want to live like. And if you look at, man, what do people regret at the end of their lives, no matter at what point they passed away, is like, wow, I wish I had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the one that others expected of me, you know? And so much of us, many of us, were living according to some kind of expectation because society, because our parents, because our older brother went to study this, so I'm also expected to do the same, or there's a family business, or so we all kind of conform to these expectations, and in that it's so hard to kind of break free, because yeah, everybody's conforming, so it's kind of, this rebellious act is quite scary to do, and I think that's the struggle potentially that many of the students are facing. What I was facing is like, you know, youngest son of a real estate entrepreneur, immigrant, you know, whose family had lost everything various times, come to a new country, and it's like, I gotta make it, I gotta build. I want my sons to have opportunities, you know, like, or rebuild what we all lost. Never again will we have to move. That's a very, very strong fire. And I saw that fire as a little kid and was like, boom, direction. I will continue it for the next generation. So I went into Bocconi, you know, and the first 5 years of my, you know, high school and bachelor's and studies, like, I know what I'm going to do. I was one of the few with the clear North Star, and everybody's like, oh, he knows, amazing. Well, Saf is like, he's on it, you know, he's getting his internships, suiting up, going to London. Well, deep inside, that narrative was actually, had a lot of cracks, you know, and there was quite a few whispers along the way. Man, I don't know if this is it, because I was actually burning out on that path, or that narrative was running out of steam because it was not rooted on rock, you know, it was kind of rooted on this sand, that on the surface level, but deep down it was not really who I am. So the way that it came up for me was I'm not so motivated, not really excited about going to class. And the biggest one that actually was more painful is like, man, I'm in a top school, I have talent, I have opportunities, I see some people going all in, and here I am playing it half through. 2 days before, you know, studying for the exam, getting a decent grade and kind of passing through the motions, you know.
So at the end, for example, for you, if we take your example, the entrepreneurship was like a way out of this.
Yeah.
Like you actually find your way in. Yeah. Like, okay, you're like, okay, I think I want to have my own. I think I'm good at it, so I want to create my own thing, and let's just go for it, like 100%, right?
Yeah. So my path is that, and I think the wall that I hit was, I'm demotivated and I'm underperforming. I know I have more inside of me. What is that? And why does this environment not work for me? Which environment will? And entrepreneurship at ESADE was something that by chance kind of came because friends were starting there. I visited, and I just, like, you get that lucky break. You see a community, like, wow, this feels good. So let me sign up for that and up my real estate finance master in Rotterdam, you know, and actually really go and see, and entrepreneurship gives you all a lot of space, because it's like, so what do you want to build? Now that's the first time it goes inside, you know, a question goes from within, not what I'm expected to do, but what do you want to build? And that gave me a lot of playground to say, well, then, like, what is it that I'm good at? What is it? And so you're starting to get more, your focus goes within instead of on your peers. You're more into like, hey, what do I really want to do? And so entrepreneurship here in the Saudi was a playground, experimentation ground, basically. Which direction for me, you know?
And so, for example, if you would recommend, like, for a student, how to be ready for the journey of entrepreneurship, like, is there a way to, like, because you're actually diving in something that you have no idea of, like, you're just like, okay, let's do that, let's go, but am I really, like, ready for this? Like, is there a way, like, actually as a coach, do you actually help the people to be ready for the journey?
I mean, you're never going to be 100% ready, right? So it has to be this call to adventure kind of vibe, you know, if you think in terms of storytelling. So there's something in you that feels like, hey, this sparks something for me. And whether it is for me, the experimentation ground to figure out, right? Or for somebody else, like, I want to, like, life's too short to be building somebody else's dream. Like, why be building the dream of, like, this, or, like, you know, being a number in this massive organization and spend 10 years on that? Like, man, I want to build my own thing. So there just needs to be this one motivator, and then the rest you kind of start building onto that. And it all just starts with, like, enough to get started, like, just experiment. And I think a lot of people are scared of entrepreneurship because of these grand people we see on Instagram and on the news, you know, like a Steve Jobs, and kind of what is happening where like a friend of mine also went to one of our retreats. He speaks about, we got to normalize those stories, you know. So, like, there's millions of ways to become successful as an entrepreneur, and you don't have to have $1 billion startups or be a Forbes 30 under 30 entrepreneur to have succeeded. And all of them started in a very small way. A lot of startups can come early, and I think that the pressure for an Asada student is probably, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is like, I'm not ready, let me first get ready, so I'll do consulting, and there's some truth in that, but you're never gonna be fully ready. And consulting will give you some things, but it will also take away others, because if you enter a system, you also become a bit of that system. So highly structured, organized environments, it's not really what a startup is going to be like. And that's one of the reasons as well why, like, certain talent investors, you know, they invest in, for example, an entrepreneur first. Nice one to look at, actually, if you're a student here. They choose to invest in potential entrepreneurs, bring them together, help them find an idea and a co-founder and launch it, right? They get 100A at the end of the program. Why did they choose to invest in the potentials? They say, we don't want the MBA with 5 years McKinsey and partner in this. No, we want the young ones. And why do we want that? Because statistically we found those are the ones that create the largest change. They're way less bound to an old system, an old way of thinking, way more willing to take risks, because you don't have kids yet, you know. You don't have a big house yet that maybe you bought with the 400,000 or 600,000 euro salary you got in your big banking career, and you're like, man, I'm working 80 hours a day or week. At least I'm going home to a nice house and a nice little boat, and I'm living the life at 33, you know. Tough then to go back to the entrepreneurial life. So I think a lot of these talent investors, they say, like, man, it's the high potentials, it's your generation now. And that might affect the largest change if you start now, because you have a fresh way of thinking and you're not, you know, like, ingrained by these old systems. So that's kind of the message for me would be, it's like, start now and don't bet everything on it. You know, don't jump out of uni, and, you know, there's some stories like that. But if you do so, then you better have an investor and the startup has traction. But start with a project. Even just taste entrepreneurship by having something small, be in the Idea Up Accelerator or the eWorks Accelerator or any other accelerator here in Barcelona that's available for you. And taste what it's like. That's my only main suggestion, is before you go on one path, taste a few. And you don't need a year in a career path to know. Maybe you need a hackathon. You know, sign up for the Idea Up, try the first month. If you like it, you stay. If you don't like it, you jump out. But it will give you a good feeling whether that's your tribe or whether it's something you enjoy to do. And
well, I think that, yeah, I totally agree on the fact that some people, like, I'll say by experience, like, I've seen people, they say, okay, no, I don't think I'm ready right now.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna go for and try hard, like work hard in consulting,
Yeah.
trying to build some real background, and then I'll just quit.
Yeah.
But so maybe the question is here, like once you get in there, like would you like the taste of getting paid, like having a good salary. I mean, of course you work hard, but you also see like the other side, like you get the money.
Yeah.
So maybe it's too late.
Yeah.
And you don't know.
Yeah.
So this experience you're talking about, I think it's true. Like as I participated in Idea Up last year, and I can tell you that I learned a lot of things, and
Yeah.
I think that even now, by doing all these activities related to like meeting people like Sava, like you, I think it's great. Like
Yeah.
I learned from you, and I also think that but at the same time, I can also go for a real journey, like think to myself and create something.
Yeah.
So the idea I think is here. It's like many students are not confident enough to just like
Yeah.
let's start.
Yeah.
So I think here's the question, like how to make them really believe in themselves.
Yeah.
And so that they feel they have the potential
Yeah.
to be like these guys, like the Steve Jobs, who already, like, they also started like with nothing, like with just an idea, change the society. That was the idea.
I mean, there's a few points you're touching, because you're touching self-belief, right? And that's a foundational starting point. And then there's a few others, right? You're saying like, hey, the moment you're on a consulting or on one of the main trains, consulting is just, it's not the
we're talking about this, but
it's usual suspects, but I'm not saying there's anything per se wrong with that path. But the moment you're on the train, it's very hard to reflect, and it's hard to get out. So it's like, can I ask myself the questions or experiment before I jump? Do an internship at McKinsey, but also say, you know what, instead of 3 times a corporate internship, what if one is a summer spending on a business idea, and I throw myself in the optimal environment, an accelerator, mentors, and I really figure it out and taste it. And you can build self-belief by throwing yourself in this environment and experience. And you only, like, once you experience the power that you can actually start to create something, it's a huge growth shift, right? It's also tectonic shift inside of like, wow, I've got it in me to, I can launch things. I see this growing, or it's becoming something. That's really powerful. So a lot of students maybe never give us themselves, like, it's like the saying, like, the quickest way we give up our power is by believing we don't have it. So most of us already cut all these potential pathways. No, I won't be able to do that, or I'm not good enough, or but what if you are? And the only way to find out is to try. Maybe, if you think about it from a very strategic level, it's like, why do something like entrepreneurship? I would just say is like, right now you're 20, 21, 22, 23, or wherever you're at, take the fastest learning school on the planet, right? For you right now, your focus is on learning. You should be a sponge, and it's about, I want to learn and grow and learn and grow and learn and grow. And I think something, coming out of an education system and a corporate system which is highly structured and tangible, there's learnings there, but only so much. Like, if you really want to get to know yourself, go entrepreneur. Day one, you're gonna see it, because it's like it's an immediate mirror to how you're feeling, right? Am I confident? What am I good at? What I'm not good at? You've got to do so many things, and it's such an uncertain environment that you immediately realize, like, the thoughts in your head, and you immediately realize the feelings in your body. When it's the same way, like, you want to have a fast leadership school or learning school, or go stand up on stage, go do things that are scary and uncertain with risk, because that's the only place where you truly get to know yourself. And if you stay in the comfortable paths, you miss a huge opportunity, because growth happens through challenge, growth happens through discomfort. And we've designed such a comfortable society, right, on the physical level, on the pathways we can take in these business schools, that we never truly find out, what is it that I am truly capable of. So for me as a coach, if you want me to draw a formula for like maximizing your potential, is like put a bold fucking challenge out there. Something that scares you, but it also excites you. Something that's worthy of your time, your focus, your energy, that's gonna pull you up to get there. Like holy, my current self, I won't be able to accomplish that vision. But it excites me, it pulls me forward to find out how I can become that. No? And so if I've in another way, it's like the success is something you attract by the person you become. So right now it's all about just investing in yourself and growing. And I think entrepreneurship or any uncertain environment is going to challenge you, is going to accelerate your growth like crazy, especially if you're willing to linger in the discomfort for a little. I mean, don't stay in it forever. If there's too much challenge, actually growth decelerates. But you need enough, and I think that the traditional career paths, they will challenge you in some ways, but they don't really offer you to truly get to know yourself. Like the moment you're just going to say, I'm Mathieu, I'm going to launch a startup, it's like, okay, what do I actually want? What's going to motivate me enough? How can I finance this thing? I need to speak to investors. I need to think about operations. Man, you're exposed to a lot, and some things you're going to really enjoy and you're going to feel confident about, and some things you're going to feel super insecure about. Great. Maybe there's something there for you. Either you outsource it or you learn how to become better at it. And yeah.
So just to, very interesting what you're saying. And so just to, because I know you have so your company with Growth Week.
Yeah.
So for example, the people you take out like for a week, like without like, if you can explain this, because I think it's very interesting for people to know, like what are they like? Are they different profiles? Like, what do they look like? That's the question.
I mean, typically, so most of them are high achievers. Most of them are ex-masters, MBAs, working in some of the big companies or startups. And I think one category is what I already told you in the beginning, the ones that are lacking direction or aliveness, right? We do everything for a feeling. Behind every goal you have, you want $1 million, why? There's some reason why, and then bam, you have the feeling. And ultimately, we all want to feel alive. We want to feel that we're growing, and we want to feel that we're like of value to others. So we want to also be giving and have impact. And so a lot of them might be realizing like, hey, something is wrong. I'm not feeling that way. I'm doing the rounds. But so if you want to make an effective change, you need to zoom out. You need to get out of that train. Like on a high-speed train, it's hard to change the course. So you got to get out on the station and kind of like let it all kind of
breathe.
Sink, breathe and kind of like wash away. And why do I do those retreats, and why do I take people to the wilderness in Patagonia or to a retreat center in the Pyrenees? Is because if you put your phone and computer away for a week and you're completely offline, disconnected from the world, it's not finally you get that whole, you take off the jacket of conformity and suddenly you come out, and then it's like, well, where are you at right now? Let's ask ourselves the big questions. To what extent can you answer, who am I? What do I love doing? What am I good at? What do I care about? What are problems that are worthwhile solving for me, or missions? Like, what are my values? What is my North Star for which I can prioritize what's important to focus on and what's not important to focus on? And without that North Star, like, you're just running through life and throwing energy in 1,000 ways. That's the student that is trying to get the perfect grade in every class and going to everything, and then realizing that they're just spread so thin that they never can truly enjoy or really excel in one. Like, your challenge is, for all that diversity, starting to build a compass that says, here I'll focus my energy. And then you're going to feel great, because progress happens when there's focus. And that means, where does that focus come from? Well, I hope it's not coming from Dad told me to. Because there's a good chance that it's not actually where you really want to go. And then you're building a high-speed train to a direction that 10 years from now, you'll be like, wait, what? Why am I here again? And so it's like, if you can build that direction from depth, that's something. And I think it's very hard to find it in your day-to-day in Barcelona. Way easier to find it offline. Away. And if you're a great, very good state of mind, and you can reflect and you have some exercises, you could do it on your own, but I think it's 5 times more powerful to do that in a group of people than in the same moment, in the same space, with coaches who know that path because they've been there. Like, I'm not your super guru that's going to tell you what to do, but I can tell you, like, this is what helped for me, or this is the path frameworks that I see that help for my clients, and give them ways to find some of these answers. And it's pretty crazy how far you can come with just a week offline. And it's pretty interesting to see that we often feel way more lost than we actually are. And if you and I would actually turn this into 10-15 minutes of dialogue with a few questions, probably we come to a place where you realize, like, holy moly, I actually have way more direction than I thought I had. And some things will fall into place while you're doing them now, because you realize the root of it all. And some things will fall into place why you should stop doing that. And then you find your next step, and that's your starting point. You know?
Well, I think if our listeners understand it, like, you have to listen to yourself, understand what do you really want in life, and maybe talk to some people that can ask Sava, for example, who can help you to build this trust. And I think that's the main point of our discussion. Like, you have to believe in yourself to really create your life based on what you want.
Yeah, and like, listen, like, there's people that would love to help you. And like, I'm not doing this for money. Otherwise, I would be doing another career. If I would optimize for money right now, like, I see potential. But I'm doing this because I love to do this. And there's thousands of coaches out there, or retreats or programs out there, or people even inside your masters, inside the faculty. They would love to help a talent find their way. It fills you with meaning, you understand? So it's like, leverage that. And you can only leverage it if you acknowledge that you don't really know in the areas that you don't know. So it's like, acknowledge where you are lost, express it, and people will come in. Answers will start coming in. And I'm just like, leverage coaches. I would say 9 out of 10 coaches probably will do the first session for free. Like, that's my way. Because you can only know what coaching is if you experience it. If I tell it right now, it can only resonate so much as if you experience it. Same with a retreat. It's difficult to really express the value of something like this. It's more intangible until you experience it. So leverage it. You can get 10 free sessions from 10 coaches. And maybe there's one you say, holy moly, if I would actually invest in myself with this person, where might I be able to go, you know? And yeah.
Well, I think we're coming to the end of this podcast. So if you, Sava, want to conclude, like, by telling us some story for the conclusion. I think you do.
I mean, there's a book that I read last year, and I've reread it 5 times. I keep ordering it to my home, and it stays there for a day, and then I'd go or a week, and then I give it again to somebody. This is, like, for me, one of my top 3 books I've ever read all time. Okay. It's called The Lion Tracker's Guide to Life. And for me, it's a beautiful metaphor about, I think most people in the studies here are in right now, or most entrepreneurs are facing, which is the complex problem of facing the unknown. So this is a book. It is actually a coach, and he grew up in the wilderness in South Africa on a wildlife reserve with lions, and, you know, the size of probably a small European country. So how do you find a lion, right? And so there's the tribe there. They're famous to be fantastic trackers in around Africa, and he captures their philosophy of, like, I don't know where I'm going, but I know how to get there, right? They don't know where these majestic life forms, where the elephant, the lion, the leopard, somewhere in this huge wilderness is, you know, just the same way that you and I don't know exactly what it is we're truly even hunting or after. I mean, we know it to some extent, but I don't know where I will be in 5 years. Specifically, it's hard to map it out. Life has always changed. So how to navigate this crazy uncertain environment to find out what it is that you're really meant to be doing here, or that would really light you up, or where you can make the most of your potential. And it's like, well, follow their path, you know. And a lion tracker, they know, like, hey, what I do know, like, I know how to get there, because I do know as my first step, I'm going to listen. I'm going to sit down at dawn, because it's the moment when all the animals are moving, and I'm just going to listen into the silence and hear the sounds. It's the same way that you're maybe on, you know, if you're in a retreat, you're starting to listen to what's the questions on my head. And if you're lucky that day, because not every day, but if you're lucky that day, you hear a lion roar, and that's like, whoa, right? It's like, you hear the roar, it will stick with you, and then boom, you have direction. So for the people in this podcast, maybe it's like entrepreneurship is the lion's roar, no? And it's like, that's the call to adventure. Okay, well, let's figure out what is the starting point. I've got a rough direction. What was my first point? For the line tracker, it's like where there's a body of water there, where there might be animals he might be hunting. For you, it might be like, where's the accelerator, where's the community, where's the tribe that are also trying to find their way into this path, and who is already doing it, and can I talk to them about it? Can I jump on board with them in some way for an experiment or a project? Like, boom. So you know your first step. You can always know your first step, and for that you are never lost, because there's always one sign if you're really listening in. And I think that's very helpful, because an entrepreneur, or if you want to hack your career, it means like being really present in the moment. What is it right now that pulls you forward? What is the first step you can take? And just go with full focus on that first step. And if you're in that moment when you're there and you're experiencing that, it will teach you something new. And through that kind of iteration, experimentation, you will find an amazing path. And the fun thing is that every step will probably be very lifeling, pretty damn scary, but that's aliveness and scariness is almost the same thing. And you're definitely going to learn a ton about yourself and probably accelerate and grow faster than you ever felt before. So I think that's what I want to leave people with. And if they're afraid of failure, of what if I mess this up, and a lot of entrepreneurs are afraid of failure if you speak about entrepreneurship. Will I still be valued? Will my friends still invite me to the dinner table if they're on their high careers and I'm like that, the fuck up, will I still be investable next time around I want to launch something? And a lot of statistics show that actually, yes, that investors are more likely to invest in a founder that has failed before, or you even starting to do something that is that courageous and crazy can teach a company a lot more about who you are and what you're good at and what you believe in and the risks you're willing to take and your proactiveness to go after something big than a degree or a stamp of a company. Ultimately, there are filters for, is somebody talented, but it doesn't say truly what that person is really like. And you launching a company is an amazing signifier of like, wow, you're somebody that has some cojones, that's what the world needs more of. That's what these companies need more of, like creative, innovative, not afraid to act on fear kind of characters. So it might be the best deal also for your long-term career in corporate if you'd say, let's do a little project now.
And well, I think on these wise words, we come to the end of our podcast. So I have to say thank you, Sava. Thank you very much for sharing with us so much information, so much interesting things. And for you guys, for our audience, for us who are listening, stay tuned for our next episode where we'll dive into more interesting topics on innovation, entrepreneurship, and also about yourself. So that was Innovation Lab Podcast. See you then. Bye-bye.
See ya. Well done, dude. Here you go.
Thank you, sir.